Accordingly, we are of the view that he is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. Wow. Oh man, that is damn. We have decided that Kyrie will serve a suspension without pay.
Welcome to In the Lab with Hoopsology, our second one of the 2022-2023 NBA season. My name is Matt Thomas. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, my good friend, Mr. Justin Goodrum. Justin, how you doing, man?
Good, man. The snowy day in Denver. How about yourself?
It is cold and windy in Albuquerque. No snow, so no, nice payoff with the weather changing or anything like that. It's just the wind. Hopefully we get some of that down here from you guys up north. But things are good. We are doing here tonight, you guys, an emergency episode. We thought enough things have come down the pipeline. The snowball has rolled down the hill and turned into a full-out avalanche, and we need to talk about the Brooklyn Nets and things that have gone on in the past week. There's been a lot of noise on this. I'm sure you diehard NBA fans, which why would you be listening to this podcast if you're not at least a casual fan of the NBA? Even casual fans have seen, I'm sure, what's been going on with Kyrie Irving. We just got breaking news about that. This has been in the headlines for nearly a week now by the time you listen to this. And we just got word of some recent developments with Kyrie Irving. So without further delay, Justin, I believe you have the press release. Can you fill us in on what's going with Kyrie Irving?
Yeah, exactly. So Nick Friedel, who was known for getting into the spat with Kyrie Irving, tweeted this out. Is an official Brooklyn Nets press release. So whenever you watch shows when they're reading a lot, that's never good news. So I'm going to try to be concise with this statement from the Brooklyn Nets here. It says, quote, over the last several days, we have made repeated attempts to work with Kyrie Irving to help him understand the harm and danger of his words and actions, which began with him publicizing a film containing deeply disturbing anti-Semitic hate. We believe that taking the path of education in this challenging situation would be the right one, and thought that we've made progress with our joint commitment to eradicating hate and intolerance. We are dismayed today, when given an opportunity in a media session, that Kyrie refused to unequivocally say that he has no anti-Semitic beliefs, nor acknowledge specific hateful material in the film. This was not the first time he had the opportunity, but failed to clarify. Such failure to disavow anti-Semitism, when given a clear opportunity to do so, is deeply disturbing, is against the values of the organization, and constitutes conduct detrimental to the team. Accordingly, we are of the view that he is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. Wow. Oh man, that is damn. We have decided that Kyrie will serve a suspension without pay until he satisfies a series of objective remedial measures that address the harmful impact of his conduct, and the suspension period served is no less than 5 games. Wow. So what? I want your reaction to that, and then I'll give mine real quickly.
Yeah. So real quick, let me set a little background.
Sure,
just
please.
because we're jumping into this really hot.
Yes.
Which is fine. I want that. So about a week ago, Kyrie had tweeted out, I believe he had an Instagram post related to Alex Jones. So that, of course, set everyone on fire. Then he tweeted out a link to a documentary that is still available on Amazon. I'm not going to mention it. I don't know this documentary. I haven't seen it, so I can't really evaluate its content, but you hear the reaction from that press release there and the consequences that Kyrie is facing. I will also mention, before this, I believe it was just yesterday, it was announced that Kyrie and the Nets were both going to pay $500,000 to the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, correct? So that punishment has already been handed down. It seems sort of like a punishment, but something that Kyrie did opt into and agree to do. So that already came down. Kyrie Irving had some media interactions this morning that press release was alluding to. Did not directly come out and apologize, did not directly come out and say things, at least in the way that the Nets and the NBA wanted him to. And you see the press release that brings us to where we are right now. So reaction here, Justin, I'm not surprised, because this has been getting so much buzz and negative PR for the NBA over Twitter, which the NBA is strongly tied to, and over really all sports media has been just dunking on Kyrie all week. And Kyrie, as has been his brand, through COVID, he refused to get vaccinated. He made that choice for himself. He's done several things in the past. He kind of had this flat Earth thing several years ago. That he mentioned on a podcast, but didn't really say he believed it, but kind of said, like, I'm just telling people to do their own research. So, it's sort of this Kyrie pushing the buttons of the media, and then kind of having this attitude of, well, you guys are idiots. You guys are, he told Nick Friedel, like, oh, basically, you're trying to be a hero. You're trying to get content. It's trying to look like Superman by dunking on me in this press conference or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. But that's essentially been all along for several years a very adversarial relationship with Kyrie Irving and the media. And I think that is more so what this is about. But now they have something on him with the link that he tweeted out to that documentary that they are not going to back off on. Because of that adversarial relationship over the years, he's not going to get mercy from them. The NBA, from a business side of things, again, I haven't seen the content of that documentary, so I'm not commenting on that. But from the business side of things, this is overall, in the NBA's eyes, a negative, and you see the suspension, which was handed down by the Nets, but I believe the NBA certainly has been in talks with them. So I guess, long story short, my reaction is no surprise. Justin, I'm sorry, that was a mouthful. Please give me your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I want to read one more thing, and I'll give my thoughts. And this is from Adam Silver, and this is before this suspension went down. So the commissioner said, quote, Kyrie Irving made a reckless decision to post a link to a film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material. While we appreciate the fact that he agreed to work with the Brooklyn Nets and the Anti-Defamation League to combat anti-Semitism and other forms of discrimination, I am disappointed that he has not offered an unqualified apology and more specifically denounce the vile and harmful content contained in the film that you chose to publicize. I will be meeting with Kyrie in person in the next week to discuss the situation. Another note I want to make is inside the NBA, Charles Barkley slammed not only the league, Adam Silver, but also the players for not stepping up in this. And I think that is valid. I co-sign that 100%. I'm going to try to be concise because we're trying to keep this within 30 minutes.
Sure.
I think what Kyrie did was intentional. I think it was despicable. I agree with you 100%. This combative relationship with the media, it was a layup. I mean, once this happened, the media was all over it to attack him.
Sure.
So, totally. I agree with you there.
Sure.
So I don't think we need to go into dissecting it. I think it's pretty clear about his comments. Not so much his comments, but him endorsing this material is pretty vile. And then him, not unequivocally just denouncing this and just admitting he made a mistake, I think is to say it's a faux pas, an understatement. What I want to ask you, Matt, in this press conference that stood out to me that I had a strong reaction to is the quote that we have decided that Kyrie is currently unfit to be associated with the Brooklyn Nets. Is there a possibility of them just trading him? I mean, that is a strong statement. If I'm overreacting, or is that just a statement of just, hey, he's just currently, unfit until he just fulfills these just checklists to get him back on the floor?
Anything's on the table at this point.
Gotcha.
Robin Lundberg, who has been on the show before,
Yes.
kind of was hypothesizing, and I wanted to make sure to give him that shout out because I read this, but he's hypothesizing, and he has connections in New York, that Kyrie's going to be cut over this. Wow. So not even trading for value, but outright waived. I don't see that as highly unlikely at this point. I see that as a definite possibility. And then you just see if any team is willing to take a shot on him. This whole Nets situation, which we are going to expand on and talk about more throughout this episode, is a total mess and an embarrassment just all
Understood.
around. And I think another thing that I just wanted to add, um, with regards to Kyrie, you and I had a great conversation earlier off air, and both of us kind of agreed like we just don't really understand the motivation that he had. Like it seems like just a total lose lose, which makes me also kind of wonder: is Kyrie just trying to get waived? Get bought out, things like that. I just don't really understand.
I
But
I don't think so. I think if he wanted his intentions to leave, he would just say that. It would.
yeah,
I think by doing this, you're just putting a lot more crap onto yourself. Just do the normal thing like Carmelo. Just say you're unhappy, or like we've seen from other players, just you just want to bounce, or just subliminal tweets. Like I think by doing this, you're just further hurting your reputation throughout the league, in my opinion. So
yeah, it seems like we're getting to a point of no return with Kyrie, where he is going to be off this Nets roster in one way or another. We'll see what happens. We'll see if that can be mended. Another thing I wonder, and I know we got to move on, but another thing I wonder is just what specific milestones do they have set for him in terms
good
of
question.
this discipline?
Yeah,
He's already given 500 grand,
yeah.
uh, and I'm not sure, because he seems like a guy, whatever you think of his positions, and there are lots of opinions on that. Um, it does seem like he strongly believes in his convictions when he goes for something. We've already seen him go in terms of the vaccination, medical rights type of thing last season, where he sat out most of the year, the vast majority of the year, and bought tickets to a Nets game to prove his point. We've seen him go that far. So I do think too, if it's something that, in Kyrie's mind, I'm not saying, again, not a moral judgment whether this is right or wrong. In Kyrie's mind, if he's asked to do something that embarrasses himself or disagrees with his own beliefs, it seems like he has enough courage in his convictions that he is going to say, "Hey, suspend me longer," rather than, bow down to the authority that's demanding this of him.
No, I agree. And that's why I don't buy this whole, oh, I'm not an influence. Oh, I didn't know about liking this. He knows what he likes. I mean, he has a strong belief in himself. This is not an accident. This is not a mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing in terms of doing this. So to me, in the press conference where he seems pretty just insincere, it's like you were saying where we had our conversation off here, very confusing. So I agree. I think he's going to double down. I don't see this really improving, especially with the Nets escalating this, which I think they should, to at least a 5-game suspension. I think this is only going to get uglier.
Yeah, and I do wonder, again, we don't know. You don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
It all makes me wonder, is there like some bigger ulterior motive that he's got with all
Huh,
these things?
see,
I mean, you would think he would know posting the link that he did would be controversial in some fashion or
you would
another.
think
He's had
that's
bouts
common
with the
sense.
media before. So I don't think he's surprised at the reaction he's getting. Makes me wonder if this is like his final battle with the media, so to speak, especially if
Oh,
he's about to get waived or whatever
yeah,
happens. So
yeah.
I know we got to move on. Did you have any last thoughts with
No,
that?
we could
All
spend
right.
like an hour and a half on this. I think we should just probably just there's so much with this team.
Yeah, there's so much.
Yeah,
You guys, if you have any thoughts on this that you want to
yeah,
comment, we certainly would love to see your perspective on that as
for
well.
sure.
Um,
Hoopsologypod@gmail.com. Please send us your
that as
emails.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll do mailbag at some point here.
yeah.
So along with the Kyrie stuff, transitioning, I don't know how to segue out of this. The other thing adding gas to the dumpster fire that's going on in Brooklyn is, oh, yeah, they just fired their head coach. Allegedly, Steve Nash reported to the owner that he felt he had lost the locker room, is what I had heard. I apologize. I don't have a source on that. But that is what I
It's
had
been
heard
reported
in back
widely.
rooms.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Nash is out the door and had a short stint here, was kind of seen as Kyrie and KD's guy. Of course, got to know KD pretty well through his time as a consultant for the Warriors when KD was on the Warriors. And he is now, in my opinion, the scapegoat in all of this. And I'll just be honest, with all the chaos of this past offseason, with all the chaos of the entire season last year, I don't know what else he could have done for this team. And I know people have criticized him as maybe not having great schemes in the playoffs. I don't know about all that. He had a very experienced assistant coaching bench behind him to help him with some of that schematic stuff and reputable names. I mean, Mike D'Antoni, Jacques Vaughn, who is currently the interim coach right now. But any thoughts on the Steve Nash tenure and his firing?
Yeah, real quickly, I disagree with Stephen A. Smith saying he's unqualified. We've seen plenty of former players get immediate coaching opportunities and then being
That's true. It was
successful.
controversial when he
So
was hired.
for
Yeah.
sure. So I think that's ridiculous. I agree with you. He's a scapegoat, and in our team chat, I mean, you know, his time was limited. I think I predicted that he'd be playing golf or doing TikTok videos, and that's what he's doing now. So I feel you. He was totally the scapegoat for the situation, and I question why they make this move now. I don't understand why they just didn't fire him before the season started. You
Mhm.
know they're unhappy with him.
Mhm.
You know that this was a possibility of them getting to a slow start. Why are you firing him now? I don't really understand the logic in this. Even if you do get, we'll talk about in a couple of minutes with Ime Udoka, the timing of this doesn't really make any sense to me. It, they're already unhappy with him, so I don't understand this whole thing. If he lost the locker room now, was there optimism before heading into the season? Kevin Durant wanted them gone, so I don't really understand why all of a sudden they reached a boiling point this week. To be honest,
Yeah, and it didn't seem like there was a ringing endorsement for him in the
no.
offseason, with Kevin Durant requesting a trade, things like that going down. Again, just more chaos. And hey, let's segue. Speaking of chaos, guess who is the number one target, I believe, according to Woj? Maybe it was Shams,
Yes,
actually. One of those
I think it was
NBA
Woj for sure. That's
uh,
wrong, man.
top target, allegedly, that the Nets are already looking at is Celtics head coach who is suspended right now from the team for this season, Ime Udoka. Uh, so let me put it this way. If you put a list of the most controversial coaching candidates the Nets could choose from right now, Ime Udoka, just because of the
He's number
recent
one.
things going on there. Now, look, stuff hasn't happened in court with this. We don't know to what degree, how serious was the stuff that went on in the Celtics front office and with his affair and things like that. So we don't know fully yet. Um, but yes, I agree with you, Justin. Ime Udoka is probably the number one pick for most controversial coaches that you could hire to replace Steve Nash. But hey, here he is. Look, the results speak for themselves when he was head coach of the Celtics last year. So on the court, yes, great motivator, toughen that team up, has that connection because he was an assistant in Brooklyn before he took that Celtics head coaching job. This is crazy, though. I don't know. That's pretty much my reaction for it. I mean, yeah, if you bring him in, I assume the players are probably going to respond better to him than they did Steve Nash. That's not saying much. So, yeah, you're probably bringing in the motivator. You're bringing in a lot more fire with that, too, especially, again, we don't know everything that's going on. If there's anything criminal or whatever, I haven't heard that yet. But this is just crazy. This is more chaos in a chaotic situation. Thoughts on Ime Udoka, Justin? I'll throw it to you. That's basically all I got.
Matt, I had a reality TV addiction back in the day, and I gave it up. And really, the only reality show I watch is The Bachelor. And the reason why? Because there's plenty of drama in sports, and I think with the Brooklyn Nets, it is one of the greatest reality TV shows that's happening on television right now. Like, and it's going to continue to be that way. And I think, in all seriousness, I think this situation is a terrible look for the league. I think it sucks. I think we've had prior guests on. We've talked about the depth and just every correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but watching every game, it just seems to go down to the wire. Like a lot more competitiveness. Like it's kind of there's a lot of excitement within the first couple of weeks of the season, and it kind of dies down. But man, I swear every night there's just competitive games happening, just so much excitement, so much young talent, but yet the NBA's in the national news for just BS. And I think this is just a terrible look. It sucks trying to get new people, new eyeballs onto the league because this is such a black mark. What's happening? I think from a on the court standpoint, from what I heard, I completely agree with. When Ime Udoka, like you said, uses the same framework as he did with the Boston Celtics, is Kevin Durant going to respond to that? Is Ben Simmons going to respond to that? If Kyrie returns to this team, is he going to respond to that? Even though he was in that system, I understand he was an assistant before on the Nets, but is that tough love going to work? I don't think so. So I don't really know. I
Younger,
get
more
his.
impressionable guys on the Celtics compared to stars that have been set in place on the Nets.
Oh, I just think it's just going to be a lot more subliminal tweets. This, I just think it's just going to be just a horrible look with this team, with a squad that has bad attendance already in the league. So I get
Yeah.
I get from the Nets they're desperate, but in my opinion, I think this is the wrong hire. And I know that some people would disagree, just in terms of just you got the talent, you want to win now, but I think this is just going to make a already highly contingent situation a lot worse.
I don't disagree, and especially from the PR perspective, from look a team that just now suspended Kyrie for as a result of his actions and the media backlash from it, the negative PR, as we discussed earlier. This is going to bring a lot of negative PR too, no matter how you slice it. I mean, unless you have some report come out that exonerates him of some of the things that he was accused of or what have you, you're going to get negative PR from this for sure.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, something you guys can look up, I don't have it pulled up, but Marcus Smart feels like this situation is all very fishy as well. He had a quote just the other day about
Fishy how?
in terms of, my coach was just suspended for the season, and now not even 3 months later, he is the lead candidate for the Brooklyn Nets, basically saying something doesn't smell right. That's not, again, I'm paraphrasing, not a direct quote, but definitely will be fascinating to see how this all plays out, even if it's just more of a dumpster fire. So let's talk a little basketball. I don't know if we can turn this hopeful or not, Justin, but is there any hope for the Nets from what you're seeing on the court? I know you watch like Nets Mavericks and some things. Can the Nets make a playoff push? Can they pick up the pieces here?
They have good players. Like, I think I've been impressed with Yuta Watanabe and Royce O'Neal. They played Chicago. That was the big game in terms of, I think that was a game that the afternoon prior to that, Steve Nash got fired. So they look good on the court. I mean, Kevin Durant's still Kevin Durant. He scored a quick 20 points in the first half in that game. They're not terrible. I think they're bad defensively and they're weak inside. I just think in terms of mentality of this team, in terms of there's so many distractions, so many, I think, missed pieces on here that I don't see them improving. And I think one thing to highlight is Ben Simmons. It sucks. I actually feel sorry for him. I know in the past we've both we were hammering him more, I think myself than you. But I just think at this point, it might just be the best thing to just start from scratch all over again with this team. And it's a wrap. And I do genuinely feel with Ben Simmons' skill set, he can be of use, but not as this guy who we were talking about, should he shoot the ball or not. I think he's trying to get acclimated, trying to get his feet under him from this, his mental health and his injuries. He just needs to get back, into the rhythm of things. He's hurt now. So I just think a new place where he doesn't have to be the focus, something similar to with DeMar in San Antonio. I realize he struggled there, but I just think where DeMar didn't have the attention on him, I think it would be great for Ben Simmons. Maybe we can see that where, DeMar kind of somewhat struggled in San Antonio, but now he's flourishing in Chicago. He's awesome. So maybe that could be the same thing for Ben. But I just think currently with this team, it might just be the best to cut bait and just get picks.
So, um, yeah, and they're going to need to because delightfully, my Houston Rockets have their picks.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so,
there you go.
so I'm all for this. So,
Yeah,
backstory, state
right.
my bias here in terms of how I'm feeling about the Nets
Sure,
dumpster fire. But
sure.
in all seriousness, I do feel this season a little bit more. So we went kind of hard at Kevin Durant in the offseason for some things. Now that he's back on the court, and as we suspected, we've always respected him on the court and the effort that he puts in, and his talent, his abilities, his just overall legacy as a basketball player on the court performance. That's always been good. There's always been respect for him there, no doubt. And I do pity him because with the chaos that's going on, you wonder, it's been a long story. I mean, since Ben Simmons ended his tenure in Philadelphia and sat out that long period of time, it's been questioned, is his motivation on basketball? Does he even want to play? I mean, that's a legitimate question that people are asking. Same thing for Kyrie now with all the chaos that's gone on. And we know that Kevin Durant and Kyrie have this like crazy respect and bond for each other and appreciation for their games. But with everything going on off the court, it seems like there's not focus directed at the objective of winning a title for Kyrie and Ben Simmons the way that it is for KD. I think KD still wants that, even though he didn't get his trade
Oh,
requests and
hell
things
yeah,
like that.
for sure.
He's come
Yes.
into work.
Yeah, for
So let
sure.
me say that for KD.
Yes.
So it's frustrating to see that didn't happen, that the pieces have not fallen in place. Kyrie doesn't have to worry about the vaccine stuff at this point, so there's no external, world pressure type of thing. And then he tweets this, and we're back at the controversy that we opened this podcast on. But you can't tell me that you could have tweeted stuff out like this in the off season and things like that if that's really your objective. And I think Kyrie's answer, I can't speak for him, of course. We don't know what's going on with Kyrie, but I think he would say that there are bigger things than basketball to worry about. And these are the things that I'm tweeting about or whatever. Be probably some sort of answer like that based on other things that I've seen him answer. But then that gets back to my point, ending this circle, that you're not focused on that NBA title like Kevin Durant is. And so I'll say I feel for Kevin Durant there in that
Yeah,
sense.
me too. I I somewhat do, but at the same time, he put himself in this situation. Durant did. I
Sure.
mean,
And
he
that
had
was
the
what we
perfect.
said in the off
I
season.
mean,
Yeah,
he had the perfect situation in Golden State. They'd
true.
be the greatest, one of the greatest dynasties this league's ever seen if he stayed in Golden State.
He
Simply,
wanted to do it
you
on
went
his
out.
own, and this is
Yeah,
what happens.
yeah,
Yep.
that's true. You
It
made your
it
bed, you
just
lay in it.
you went somewhere
Yeah,
that seemed very stable at the time that he joined them.
yeah,
But man, now today the Knicks look more stable, a lot more stable than the Nets,
that's true.
relatively speaking. And who would have thought we would be saying that? Because
Well,
the Knicks
guys,
wanted KD.
no, it's true, and guys know the personalities of their peers that they work with,
True.
and it's hard pressed
Good
for me to
point.
Kevin Durant to be just shocked at
True.
Kyrie's personality here. Just like, oh, I'm astonished at all what is happening here,
True.
what is unfolded. So he knew what he was getting into, and he's paying the price. I mean,
True.
it sucks. It actually is weird because I was happy the Bulls got the win, and I think they're, as of the recording of this podcast, they're on a 2-game winning streak. But it hurt me watching that because he was a maestro on that floor. He basically dominated Chicago for that first half. It's weird because I'm a fan of Chicago. I want the Nets to lose, but it was just phenomenal just to see him just
Oh yeah.
ball like that and just be so efficient. And it just sucked just to see really just the life just taken out of that arena. Like it was very little just reaction, just in terms of the energy, just not there. It's brutal. It's just unfortunate just to see. So I really don't know what the next chapter, as I said in the offseason, I really don't know what Kevin Durant, I understand he wants to win, but in terms of how he gets those championships, I don't really know what his requirements are. So,
Yeah, we may look back and the narrative is KD wasted,
yeah,
3 years of tail end of his prime, or
yeah,
like peak, starting to go down of his prime. I mean, he's still playing at a very high level. Can't deny that, certainly. One last thing, and I know we got to get out of here, but it has been rumored, to your point of blowing this up, it has been rumored that the Nets would like a veteran shooter from the Western Conference. This is from Ian Begley reporting this. So there have been discussions with teams in the Western Conference. The Nets would like a veteran shooter for Ben Simmons. So it seems like Ben Simmons is hurt, as you mentioned. It does seem like the Ben Simmons experiment is coming to an end in Brooklyn already. We haven't seen him many games, and who knows the likelihood of this deal getting done and them agreeing to terms on this. I assume they probably want picks as well if they're getting a veteran sort of shooter. And who knows? I mean, Ben Simmons' value right now is super low.
It is.
So I don't know that they'll get the return that they're looking for. Please tell me that they aren't getting Eric Gordon from the Rockets and then Ben Simmons will be a Houston Rocket. Please tell me, Justin. I think that's a likely candidate, actually, is what I'm saying.
Gosh. That might be. I know you don't like that, but I think for Ben Simmons, it might be the best thing for him. Young energy. Don't have to worry about winning. He can just improve. I mean, look what's happening with John. A little bit of situation with, John Wall's different. But I just feel like with, what I mean? It's just, there's not the expectations. I mean, he gets there.
Sure.
I mean, he's not going to be a world beater. There's no pressure of the Rockets, going to the playoffs. It's just he can just naturally, get back, get right, and play with young players with some optimism. So it could be the best thing for him. I know you don't like that in terms of, just the future of the team, but I think for this Ben Simmons, the person, it might be what he needs to turn the corner.
Yep. Tune into Hoopsology next week when I wear my Ben Simmons Houston Rockets jersey.
Right. Right.
Just kidding.
NBAstore.com. Yep.
No, and look, on a serious note, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I want Ben Simmons to succeed. I want to see a guy averaging like 16, 10, and 10 and dominating on the defensive end. Yeah. That's what I think we all want. So if that happened in Houston, great. Of course, I'll be rooting for him. I'll be rooting for him wherever he goes, just because I don't want to see potential wasted, as I've talked about before.
Yeah. If you don't mind, did you have anything else on that point? Or
that's the last thing I had. So maybe the most chaotic week in Nets history is coming to a close here, but
yes,
we got to see if Kyrie's suspension gets extended, depending on what goes down, like we said. So there may be more to follow up on, and we may have someone covering the Nets for more discussion on that,
for sure,
if we deem necessary.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
We'll see what happens.
For sure. I just want to mention before we bounce, some breaking news from Ian Begley. The ADL, Anti-Defamation League CEO Jonathan Greenblatt says the organization is not accepting Kyrie Irving's $500,000 donation. Also said that Irving failed at almost every step along the way to apologize and condemn anti-Semitism. He commends the Nets for suspending Irving. So that's of Ian Begley's Twitter account. So I just wanted to add that note before we get out of here.
That does add important context, because it's like a punishment was paid and then the suspension piles on.
Yeah.
But turns out they said your money is no good here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what happens. We'll keep eyes on the headlines, because this is far from over, I think.
No. Yeah.
And it's far from started. We've had a lot on Kyrie over the last couple of years. So
Nope, I agree. No need to watch VH1. Yeah, just stay tuned to your Twitter account. Just I know there's a lot of this awful just election stuff, whatever. But if you just need just some entertainment, just to free your mind, just in terms of just a NBA train wreck, just watch the Nets. So there you go.
Crazy. Well, I'm glad we got this off our chest, because
agreed.
We were like, what are we going to do? Like, Nash got fired. That's a pretty big deal. Should we talk about that? Kyrie's getting suspended. We definitely should catch up on the Nets here. So I'm glad we did. Hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, leave your comments down below. How are the Nets going to fare the rest of the season? Are they going to be anything more than a play-in team? Are they going to bounce back? Is KD going to go hero mode and get in that MVP narrative after all of this? What do you guys think? Let us know. Always appreciate your comments. Follow us anywhere you do social media at Hoopsology Pod. send in your questions, send in topics you want us to answer. Hoopsologypod@gmail.com.
Like and
He's Justin
subscribe.
Goodrum. Yeah, like, share, subscribe. He's Justin Goodrum. I'm Matt Thomas. Thanks as always. We'll see you guys again very soon in the next episode.
See you later.